Hello, everyone. And for those of you that went to my conference this year at UMEA, thank you for being there. I super appreciate your support and the questions that I received after my presentation. I had so many questions throughout the conference and many wonderful conversations with all of you. So it was really awesome to see such excitement around mariachi education here in Utah. And I was excited to see how many schools are planning on starting mariachi groups next year. So it's fun to see that things are starting to take off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to present my what I did at UMEA. But this way it is accessible to all. So if you weren't able to make it, but you really wanted to go, but you really needed to go to Dave Fulmer's, I completely understand. I love that man. And I would have probably skipped me too and gone and watched him. He's phenomenal. But there's also other really great presenters at the same time. The whole conference was amazing, and I think everyone can agree that every year it comes really hard to choose who you're going to go see. So this way, you don't have to choose. You can take a listen right now. For those of you that were there, you might be able to pick up on some more information because, as you know, if you were there, you saw that there was some technical challenges at the beginning, and we are kind of racing through to try to get all the information there at the end. So this way, I can take certain spots a little bit slower to explain a little bit better. And I can explain the end of this presentation a little bit better. So let's get into this. Share my screen here. All right, here we go. So for those of you that don't know or didn't know, my name is Garrett Spalka. I'm the director of bands and mariachi at John F. Kennedy Junior High School in Granite School District. I've been there for 3 years, and I taught 5 years in Nevada. And while I was there, I started a marching band at the high school I was working at, and started a mariachi group as well. And saw a lot of success with that. Saw increases in our music program, and just saw students who wouldn't normally be in the music hall who decided that they belonged, and that's where they wanted to be. So going into this, some of the things we're going to talk about: mariachi education fears and anxieties. What is mariachi education and the benefits? Starting your program, your models, classroom requirements, next steps that Utah needs to take. We didn't get to sing and play a song, but I will get those recordings for you so you can kind of hear what a mariachi sounds like at the middle school level, and I have a recording of the high school, so you get an idea of what to expect with these high performing ensembles. And resources. What I'm really looking at is the how of mariachi education. As music teachers, we know the who and the what are extremely important, and so you experience that every day with your choir, your band, your guitar classes, your orchestra classes, of the who and the what of music classes and why they're important. So that's why I really want to go over the how of your mariachi program, so it is sustainable and successful. So this one is not interactive. So if you were there, there was some interactive parts like answering questions. So you don't have to answer those questions unless you want to talk to yourself or talk to your computer. So going into this, so what are some of the fears and anxieties of teaching mariachi? So cultural sensitivity, demographics, sustainability of programs, curriculum, new instruments, right, that we don't know, new languages that many of us don't know, sheet music, materials, and then lack of state and district support, and because there's just not enough of them yet. My students helped me with this presentation, so you'll see that there are quotes from them, and kind of, well, I asked questions about this presentation and how they could help me. And so I asked them why music teachers shouldn't be afraid of teaching mariachi. And the answers I got were, we want to be there to help our teacher understand who we are, from Alexis. And Kyle says it's not just a learning experience for us, it's a learning experience for the teacher too. And that's the truth, right? Kids do change over time, and we want to keep up with them, and we want to learn who they are, and we want to be sensitive to some of the changes that happen. in our young people that we get to interact with on a daily basis. We like when you make mistakes. That was from Aline. Sometimes we know things that you don't know, and we like to share with you. Right? They want to be part of your learning experience too. And so they know that we're not always the experts on everything. Um, and so this comes back to this like cultural sensitivity piece where a lot of us are afraid of teaching the music from another culture. I said a comment in our presentation that many people were I think a little shaken by when I talked about when we have white teachers teaching brown music to brown children, and it got quite a reaction, and it should have a reaction. Um, I know it's I know it's a little blunt, but it is the truth of what's going on here for many educators, that we're teaching cultures or we're teaching music from a culture that may not belong to us. And so we're not here to claim ownership. We're here to teach music. Let the kids claim their culture. Let them teach you the cultural pieces of the music. You need to be responsible for teaching them good good bow holds and good embouchures and good posture and correct strumming patterns, and correct note reading. That's the important part that we are doing here. They will teach you the cultural pieces, and you will pick up on those too. And so you won't always be in the dark on what to expect from these kids. All right, so I just want you to take a listen. This is Monaco Middle School in Clark County, Las Vegas, Nevada. A phenomenal mariachi program. This is them performing, and this is so. I remind you, this is a middle school, and if they're following the traditional Nevada middle schools, the oldest kids here are eighth graders, not ninth graders. So let's take a listen here. It's only 20 seconds. So that was only about 20 seconds of their performance. If you want, you can look up this performance on YouTube. It's I think nearly I'd have to look at it. If I had to take a guess, it's probably about a half hour long, of them performing. So it's a really great example that you can listen to many examples from a middle school. Now, granted, they are an extremely high performing group. And so they are, I don't want to say the end goal because we're never done teaching, but they are a standard I would want to achieve. So what is mariachi music? So a traditional mariachi ensemble is violins, trumpets, guitars, vihuelas, guitarrones, and if you can have one, a harp. And we're talking about lever harp. We're not talking about full symphonic stand-up harps that you see like in a full orchestra setting. Um, and when you ask kids what's mariachi to them, you see a lot of similarities between what mariachi is to them and maybe what band is to uh, a trumpet player or a tuba player, where it might not, where you can see here one of my students said it's my culture, where a band might not be my culture, but where it says it's my school family. We find that across many music ensembles regardless of the what's being taught, whether it's band, choir, orchestra, guitar, that kids find comfort and they find family in these ensembles, and it's no different for a mariachi. Um, so when we're asking about like, so where do I find good examples of mariachis in the United States? We're looking at like Las Vegas is a great example of excellent mariachi programs. We're looking at Texas as well, for some really great examples of mariachi programs. Um, Mariachi itself is folk music. and it's very relatable to American country music. And if you were at the conference, you already know what's coming here. So when we look at this, American country music is very relatable to mariachi because most American country music is about your truck, your country, your town, your state, your girl or your heartbreak, um, and then your beer or your whiskey. Um, where mariachi, you find a lot of similarities with that, where it's about your horse, it's about your pueblo or your estado, uh, your love or your girl or your lost love or your heartbreak, and it might be about your tequila. So as long as you're selective about the music you pick, you shouldn't run into these issues of picking an inappropriate piece. But if you need to double check, right, throw it. And you don't speak Spanish, throw it in a Google translator, and you should be able to find what the song is about. And if you're kind of doing it on the fly, find a kid in the mariachi group that you trust and ask them like, "Hey, what's this song about? Is it appropriate?" And if they like you, they'll let you know. And if they don't like you, they they might just throw you under the bus. So be careful who you pick for that. Oh, there we go. All right. So what are the benefits of a mariachi program? Um, so let's all keep in mind, mariachi is a music class. So the same benefits that you see in band, choir, orchestra, those benefits also extend to mariachi students as well. My students have made some of the comments above on here that what they have gained outside the mariachi class. And so things like I have to work as a team to be successful because there's only 12 of us and I can't let them down. So this sense of teamwork and importance of every member of the group, I feel more confident at school. Mariachi helps me focus in other classes because I have to get good grades to stay, which is true for my mariachi. There is a because it's an auditioned ensemble. There are requirements that they need to meet to stay in the mariachi class because I expect them to have good grades and be good citizens. Um, and then they also say that I have more friends. The same benefits that we find in other music classes, right? Higher attendance, overall GPAs, increased school engagement between the students and their families, more community connections. The mariachi at my school gets asked to do over 20 performances a year as a middle school. And so, we have to turn down lots of people all the time and say, they're still kids. But we are selective about what we get to pick. A lot of times they can be bribed with food. And then the student and community empowerment. You'll find that you become an important staple in these communities because they know you, they know who you are and what you do. And you're important to these families because of what you teach. So when we look at this, what does mariachi education look like? Now, this will vary between different school districts, different states, but this is my takeaways from things that I've seen over the past several years. Um, Elementary programs do exist. There are elementary mariachi programs. If you can get fifth graders and younger to play guitars and play violin and to do those things, like all power to you. You find a lot of elementary teachers who I've talked to. They talk about kind of the issues with finger dexterity and that motor skills, the fine motor movements. So getting kids to do those kind of things can be difficult. So learning how to do like a mariachi ensemble can be a challenge. But you can still sing these songs and you can still like unison songs, partner songs, right? Spanish language and introductions to instruments. And you can do this as fully group work, right? You can have your mariachi class and teaching about, right, exposure to the Mexican culture and their music, and how the music is used and how it's celebrated. At the middle school level, right, we start looking at techniques class, and so I'm looking at a 6 through 8 model here. I know not everyone does a 6 through 8 model. That's just what I do and what I'm using as our model here. So beginning techniques, fundamentals classes. So we talk about an armonia section, which is also referred to as a rhythm section, which is our guitars, our vihuelas, and guitarrones, and then our melodia section, which is our trumpets and violins. So you can split these into those classes, right? An armonia class and a melodia class, or you can even split it into a guitar class, a trumpet class, and a violin class, if you have enough kids who are interested at the beginning level for this. In middle school, we're looking at our first beginning ensembles, right? An inclusive model that allows any kid to join. So you might end up with a giant mariachi in that class, or you might just need to split it into a couple like beginning ensemble classes. And then kids are also looking at their first auditioned ensembles, where they start looking at your top group and your second group and your third group, depending on how many kids you have. I know of programs in Las Vegas that have upwards of 200 to 300 students somehow involved in their mariachi program. But when we look at traditional mariachis, we're looking anywhere between 10 and 20 people. And so the class sizes aren't typically huge, but you can when you're teaching beginners because they're all learning the same thing. And in a high school, right, if your middle school doesn't have a mariachi, then you are teaching the beginning class, right? You're teaching beginners. You're teaching first violin techniques and first trumpet techniques and embouchures and things like that. You're looking at inclusive ensembles, right? So non-audition classes, maybe like a freshman band or a freshman orchestra where, if kids want to join, they can join. And then you're also looking at auditioned ensembles, and you're teaching kids the difference between a show mariachi and a working mariachi, which, if you don't know, a show mariachi is a group that performs and prepares concerts, where a working mariachi is typically if you go out to dinner and you see a mariachi working at a restaurant, something like that, where they have set lists of songs that they know and they're memorized, and it might not be as refined as a show mariachi that is only playing an hour-long concert, but they will know a lot more music, and so that's what you're looking at, the difference between show mariachis and working mariachis. So when the kids are asked, like, what do you think a mariachi class should look like? And they say lots of things that we expect from traditional music ensembles: relaxed, fun, large, enjoyable, and having dedicated members. So when we're looking at this, Utah does not currently have mariachi as a listed class. So what you're looking at, and this is kind of the Utah specific pieces of these, is that you are looking to have a small ensemble, which is currently listed through USBE, the Utah State Board of Education. That's right. There we go. Got it. And so you are looking for what class can I use to teach mariachi? It would be the small ensemble class and the small ensemble standards. And we'll talk about this in the next coming slides about what needs to be done to kind of change that. But this is what we have right now. You can use a guitar class to train your armonia section. And then you can use your band and your orchestras to train trumpet players and violin players. So that's not going to be a standalone mariachi program yet, but you are using the resources that you have currently available to you. So how do we get these things started? So we start with recruitment. So my start small, right? If you are figuring out if your school can support something like this, maybe you're just working with a club, or you're working with some of the members of your group, or maybe you're performing a mariachi piece with your band or orchestra, and getting kids interested in this form of music. So you don't have to have every instrument that's in a mariachi. If you got a bass player who wants to cover the guitarrón part, great, like go for it, like make it happen. You can easily have a group with a bass, a violin, and a guitar. right? And what I'm talking bass guitar, not necessarily guitarron, right? Just get something started. Um, the best way to recruit for a mariachi program is to get them in front of other kids, right? So if you can get a couple songs learned and you can get them out and around your school, you're going to find that kids are really interested and they want to join this. So then you can kind of start branching into um, after school clubs and things like that. And we're going to talk about kind of those models in just a second. But this is just, where's a good jumping off point to get these things started? So be a member of the mariachi that you create, right? I regularly perform with my group, especially when we're doing like gigs and stuff like that. They are middle schoolers. It is a whole new different style of music for them. And so when they get more comfortable towards the end of the year, I phase myself out. Um, I'm never the focus of the performance, and I'm never a soloist. I always let the kids know that like you are the performers. I'm just here to support you and back you up. So if I need to do some harmonization, or I need to, help cover a trumpet part, second trumpet part, third trumpet part, just to help fill out the group, I will help kids do that. And then getting administrators to understand that numbers are not the name of the game when it comes to a mariachi. It's about the inclusive nature of it and about representation. Um, One of the biggest things I love to see in a school is when I go to a different music program and I look around the hallways, and the kids that I see in the hallways are the kids that are in the band, meaning that if I see that, there's about 50% Hispanic population within the school, within the hallways, that I want to see about 50% of the band or the orchestra or the choir that is also Hispanic. That's how we know that we're including everyone in our groups, and recruiting everyone into our groups. We're not trying to single out certain students. Um, so traditional recruitment strategies, right? Posters, school announcements, get those things out early. So kids, and put them out often, right? Middle schoolers, especially, their mind changes every 5 minutes for things. And so if you can put something in front of them often, they're going to want to join the thing that they think about the most. And if it's your class, then that's where they're going to end up. So some of my best recruitment advice I can give you is don't be the mariachi expert, um, be the music expert, and let the kids be the experts on their culture. Um, your kids will be a part of that journey with you, and you will move together when it comes to learning about the music and the culture. So some of the class requirements, right? These are so similar. You're going to find so many similarities between this and band programs and orchestra programs and choir programs, right? So method books, stands, chairs, instrument storage, uniforms, right? These uniforms that this mariachi is wearing, Mariachi Sol de Mexico, is wearing trajes de charro, which traditionally were like, if you can think of like cowboys, would wear these, and it was adopted by mariachis. And this is the traditional, what traditionally a mariachi will wear. They come in all sorts of different colors. If you can get your mariachis in charro, trajes de charros, you will never struggle to recruit for your group. Students are going to want to look as good as these guys do. And when you put them in your school colors, they represent so much more than just a mariachi group. They represent their culture, they represent their school, their community, and so now they're expensive. Right? I think we can go up to $1,000 and more for one uniform. So it's a pricey endeavor, but it's very similar to buying marching band uniforms. The only difference is you're not hopefully buying 100 of them, and so also having repertoire and arrangements of the music that you want to play, and sound systems. I would always recommend don't go cheap on your sound system, and you want it portable. That way, You can do performances at other places that might not have their own sound system to use, or might have uh, a difficult environment to perform in. So all of these things, they're not required to start your mariachi, right? But they are things that you're going to want to have. Um, and then more class requirements here, right? Armonia class, you're going to want a set of class guitars. And on the next slide, I get more specific into instruments here, but guitars, vihuelas, which is the smaller round back. If you look at the second gentleman from the right, um, second gentleman here, there's a guitar, the small guitar, that's a vihuela. So if you're following along here and you go, what's that? And then the third gentleman there has a guitarron, which is a bass sound, 6 strings, right? So having 5 or 6 vihuelas for your beginner class, 3 to 4 guitarrons, and then if you can swing a harp, great. If you know how to play the harp, even better. If you don't, I highly suggest finding someone who does and helping you teach your kid who wants to learn a harp. Being in Utah, we are very blessed to have many harp players here, just a part of the local culture. So it's not too hard actually to get in touch with a harp player here in Utah. So melodia classes, right? Sets of trumpets and sets of violins. With lucky for us, most schools have trumpets and violins. And if they don't, they're pretty easy to get from our friends at Riverton and Summer Hayes and Burt Murdoch and the wonderful music stores that are here in Utah. And so when you're looking at standard mariachi ensembles, right? Now there's a standard, again, this is not a strict requirement. This is just like a good size performing group, right? 6 to 7 violins, 2 to 3 trumpets, a guitar, a vihuela, a guitarron. I would suggest, get more guitars in there, get another vihuela in there, if you have a really big group, right, get another guitarron in there. Have them, kids perform well when they have help from others. Let's see, just catching up on my notes down here. All right, so this is just an idea of some stuff here. Again, these are just their recommendations. They're not like you have to get these brands and these things. These are just some examples, so you can kind of get an idea of like, well, what does a mariachi cost? Classic, so very important. You're looking at classical guitars. 3 steel strings, 3 nylon strings. Your bottom 3 are your steel. Your upper 3 are your nylons. It doesn't have as an aggressive sound as an acoustic guitar. It is an acoustic guitar, but rather than all 6 steel strings. So you're looking at, right, Epiphones, Yamaha. The Yamaha C40s are great. They're wonderful for class sets of guitars. They're pretty economic. And when you have really great performing groups, right, you want to provide them with good authentic brands, good instruments, right? Sevillano, Luis Sevillano, his company is wonderful. He makes really great stuff. He sells economy to professional level instruments, right? So you'll see his name on these things. Vihuelas, I don't always recommend the Jimenez line of instruments. For beginners, they're a good place to start. And I don't know if I would outfit my performing mariachis with those. They're just like any instrument, right? Certain manufacturers make them a certain way. Some are better quality than others. These are going to be more mass produced. And so I would I don't not recommend them for beginners. I think it's a good place to start, especially if you are figuring out how you're going to start a mariachi in the most economic way. La Tradicion is another really great company. It's a newer. I've recently discovered them, so I don't know if they're a newer company, but I've recently discovered them and have found that they are just really awesome people. Make great stuff. are very attentive to their clientele, very responsive. And also, so when you're looking at Vihuelas, same thing, Luis Sevillano. So, and you can kind of go through this list too and kind of get an idea, right? You're looking at guitars ranging from, a class set of $150 to $200, to your performance guitars going, $500-600. Your most expensive instruments are going to be your violins and trumpets, just like the same that you find in other classes, in your band classes and your orchestra classes, where these are more expensive. There's huge ranges. You can definitely find violins for cheaper than $1,200. You can definitely find trumpets for cheaper than $3,400. Um, if I have a um, really high performing mariachi at the high school level, I'm going to want something like a box strat for them, right? So that's what we're looking at here, right? But so you have this just gives you an idea. You can kind of price out things. These are all taken from music and arts and from these distributors' websites. So like La Tradicion and Luis Sevillano's websites. All right, so getting into the models of music education or mariachi education, I should say. So the after school club model here. Some of the pros, right? I asked my kids, what do you think the pros are? And they said, I don't have to go home. Like, some of those kids just love being at school and then they don't really want to be home because then they have to do chores, or maybe home is just not their favorite place to be. Your music room might be their favorite place to be. So I don't have to go home, more time. People who are there are more dedicated for an after school club. It's not a forced thing, and it's an optional thing. The cons, people who are not able to make it, you might have less people who are committed to it because it's after school. And at the same time, you could be spending more time after school with it, or you could be getting less time depending on how you model that. So with before or an after school model or before school model, um, you have students who create their ensemble, and the teacher is the sponsor, and dictates how long the club meets and when it meets. So the pros that I listed, right, easy to get started, right? Starting an after school club usually isn't a big to do. There's less commitment from the teacher, right? You're not doing, you can do lesson plans, depends how successful you want it to be. Your district might offer stipends. It's a good way to get your feet wet. You have a flexible schedule, right? When and how long you guys meet. And then you still get the benefits of having a mariachi group at your school. But it's not a class. The cons is that, a mariachi club can become like an eternal club. For those of you that have like before school jazz bands, and year after year after year, it's always going to be a before or after school jazz band. And it's never going to become a class. Some people prefer that. Personally, I'm my school's union rep, and I'm really persistent about the starting and stopping times of contracts. We all spend extra time at school, but if you don't have to, I highly don't recommend it. Spend more time with your family. You can have less commitment from students, right? They show up and they do it for a few weeks, and then they come less and less and less. If you're like me, who doesn't like to be at school at the butt crack of dawn, so it's before and after school. So for me, that's a con personally. I don't want to spend more time than I have to. And then you might have less access to funding and grants because it's a club rather than a class. And so, depending on what type of funding that you're looking for, that some funding is limited to that it needs to be a class rather than a club. So the second model I'm giving here is a mariachi ensemble. So this is a mariachi class. It's not, this is not a full program. This is just a class that you teach, kind of like a jazz band. You have a jazz band that is part of the maybe symphonic band or your concert bands. It's a break off of that, where mariachi is kind of the same thing. You can have the mariachi ensemble. This is the model that I use. I'm not saying it's the best model or the worst model. It's just the one that I use to have a mariachi at my school. Um, and as I said before, under Utah requirements and standards, we use small ensemble as the class code. So cons, it takes a class period. So if you are overflowing with students and you need a music class, and a mariachi is can be tricky, because a typical mariachi is somewhere between 10 and 20, and so if your admin is adamant that you're not having classes that are smaller than 3,000 kids, well, then that can be a challenge. Any student can sign up. If you have a non-auditioned group, sometimes you'll have kids who sign up. I want to be in mariachi, and I've never touched a guitar or a trumpet or a violin before. Well, that can be a problem. That can be a challenge, especially if you have ranging abilities. But that's nothing new in the music world. And then grades and standards. For those of us who just hate putting in grades, and hate having to attach everything we do to a standard, rather than I'm teaching music to teach music. Um, some can view that as a con. Pros, though, I'm going to jump to the second bullet there. Pros, grades and standards, right? I always think it's nice to have a standard to tie what I'm teaching. But also grades can be a motivating factor for those motivated kids, or less motivated kids. It takes a class period. So for those of you who might have a music program who struggles to appeal to certain demographics and populations at your school, right? This could easily fill one of those class periods. So if you're teaching you don't have enough for a full music load, so you end up teaching a student success class or something like that. This could take over a class that you might not want to be teaching. Access to funding and grants. You can students will view it as a serious ensemble because it is a class rather than a club. And then you have representation in the music department as well. Something I neglected from earlier is, for those of you that have a guitar class, and there's plenty of us out there who, when we talk about our guitar classes, it's for some of us, it's the bane of our existence. It's the hardest class of our day. You can actually use that guitar class to your advantage to recruit for a mariachi group, for a mariachi ensemble, by moving away from a standard guitar method book and maybe approaching it more from the mariachi point of view, and using a mariachi method book rather than a guitar specific method book. So if you play trumpet, you can tell the kids, you're going to play these chords and I'm going to play a melody with you, and we're going to play a song together. So then you have a class of maybe 20 to 30 guitarists who are now performing with you, and they feel like they are part of a miniachi group, mini mariachi, where and that might get some motivated kids to want to practice and join a mariachi class that you start. And you can actually audition your guitarist from the guitar class into your mariachi group. And the third model is like a full-fledged mariachi program, where you are starting beginners from scratch. So it is currently possible under Utah standards, but it would be difficult to navigate between all our school districts. As I said, you can. Oh, look, I didn't neglect. I just was ahead of myself. So using your guitar class to as your framing to teach mariachi methods. Make guitar class not your most dreaded class of the day. As I said, if you know, you know. This class is for your first year musicians. Your Melodia classes can be taught as a homogeneous trumpet and violin class, or as two separate. Did I mixed that? So you can do it as a heterogeneous trumpet violin class, or a homogeneous trumpet separate violin class, and would be for first year musicians. And then you have your first mariachi ensemble, your second mariachi ensemble, kind of like your first year choir, second year choir, and auditioned choir kind of deal going on here. So this is if you are looking to jump into an entirely different way of doing this, where you're not teaching traditional band and orchestra anymore, you're teaching a full mariachi program. This is that model. So I'm going to play just a little bit of this. It's only about 20 seconds long. This is a high school mariachi, McAllen High School from McAllen ISD in Texas, playing at the UIL state show in 2021. You can hear what they sound like. So that's a high school mariachi program. Also, another excellent example of what these programs can become. And I mean, just the still of the video you're looking at, like look at them, like they look amazing. They feel amazing. They're in their school colors. They're representing their communities, and they're representing on a state level here. So the next steps for Utah is adopting national mariachi standards that exist at the state level, adding mariachi to the state and district course selections, and not using the small ensemble anymore. That way, it is valued as its own established set of classes. Establishing more programs around Utah. I have to say, at the conference, I had no less than 5 people come up to me and tell me that they were starting mariachi programs next year. So I am absolutely thrilled to hear that, and I can't wait for this to just bloom and blossom, like the states have around us, and to finally get on that boat with them. And then starting district and state mariachi festivals so that we can collaborate and support each other as a music community, as we do with band and choir and orchestra. And that way we can get together as a diverse and healthy programs that represent all the students in the state of Utah. Oh, I already did that. All right. So things that you need to, this is what my mariachi kids, this is kind of the last minute things they wanted you to know about them. They want you to know that as a culture and as a community, they are loud. My Hispanic kids wanted you to know that they are loud. They are funny. They don't want you to take things too personally. If they are joking around with you, it means they love you, and they might razz you quite a bit. So be willing and able to throw it back a little bit. They tell me there's lots of chisme always. It's gossip. They're always about the gossip. So and I love their enthusiasm, and I love their personalities. Just know their gossip and their cheese making get in the way. So just keep control over some of that. Um, they say you need to be dedicated to us like we are dedicated to the mariachi, which is so true. Be dedicated to what you do with them, and they will give it back to you tenfold. They say we know these songs; it's our culture, and we love them. So be with them on that. Like I said earlier, humor is part of the culture, so don't take things too personally or too seriously. Let us dance around. It's an important expression. Mariachi brings it out of us. My kids will be singing a song and they'll just start dancing and playing, right? I just let them do it. A lot of times they internalize that music through movement, and so I have no problem with them getting to do that. Let them dance. Let them love it. They say, respect El Rey, Vicente Fernandez. May he rest in peace. He is the king. Um, it's a song. If you don't know who Vicente Fernandez is, look him up. He was the king. He still is the king in mariachi and Mexican culture, and he's important to them, and so is his music. They say we have energy. They ask you to please be patient. Like any good middle schooler, they're going to beg you for food and they want Takis now. And they love to eat, so there better be food when we perform. And I'll tell you, when we do some of our performances, we have a potluck with it, and we go ham. Your mariachi performances will be some of your most favorite. They are not a band and orchestra performance. They are raucous. They are wild. People are screaming. People are shouting. They are cheering. They are singing along with you. So have fun. Mariachi is fun. So these are just some last resources here. So document standards. If you know who Marcia Neal is, she's just an amazing human being. She has her website, Music Consultants or Music Education, Music Ed Consultants. Sorry. She is just an amazing person. She has all these resources on her website. She is a wonderfully accessible person. So if you have questions, um, please visit her website, reach out to her. The National Mariachi Workshop, Yvette is according to their website, Yvette is the contact for that this year for you to get some more information. It is June 24th through the 28th in Las Vegas, Nevada at the Orleans Hotel. So get your admin on this, right? Get in on this quickly. They sell out all the time on this. And so you want to get involved with this workshop. You will leave that workshop feeling like you can do anything, that you can do anything. And teaching mariachi education is what they want you to do. And so if you have questions about, please email Yvette. She is also just wonderful, and she is highly knowledgeable. She's been doing this for a long time. Curriculum, history, videos, sobrino.net. It's great. Suppliers, history, and the National Mariachi Extravaganza. If I remember correctly, I don't want to give wrong information. It happens in San Antonio, if I remember, every year, the Mariachi Extravaganza. And if there's videos from it, but you ever make it down there, it's an incredible experience to watch these talented musicians. And then my contact information. If you have more questions for me, my personal email is probably the best to get a hold of me. But my school email address is there too. Stop sharing here. So, like I said, if you have any questions, you need anything from me as a resource in Utah, I am available. If you need help with music selections, you need help, what does a beginning mariachi sound like, look like, what are we doing here? Send me an email. I'd be happy to help out any way that I can. If you need help on a district level, getting people to understand the importance of this and why we need this or how to do this, send them my way or send me their way. Be happy to help out. Thank you everyone who attended UMEA. Thank you everyone who pulled up this to watch and to get this information as well. I love this state and the music community that we have here. And I can't wait to see more mariachis popping up in Utah in the next several years here. Thank you so much.